Welcome back to the hottest marriage show in the galaxy. It's I, John DN, a.k.a.
Dude.
And Too Much Podcast, Rescripting the culture, one conversation at a time. Good morning, my love.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine. How are you?
I'm good. Really good. I was talking to a friend of mine before this episode started and said we should talk about relationship growth. And I was wondering, when you look at how we started out, what do you think, what practices could we have done to help mature our relationship? And the reason why I'm asking about this is because I believe that we've grown so much. But we've grown, I think, in the last 5 years tremendously. But for people who watch us, how do we help them get so that they can see a type of result that says, okay, the relationship was worth working for? Because a lot of times people get into relationships and not realize how much work it actually takes. So I was wondering, in your experience, being able to reflect, talking to people, watching different things, what do you think is something that can show relationship growth where you be like, dang, growth. You know what that is? Growth.
It's growth. I tell people all the time, we were having a conversation recently with a friend, and I said, my biggest priority with John, it wasn't the attraction or the sex or anything when we first met. It was the friendship. And it wasn't like we weren't friends. It was the best friendship. That's what I was looking for. Like somebody to really, we had all our own inside jokes, which we did have inside jokes, but it just wasn't, we were not when I look at now and I look back then, we were not intentional about there being you and I, we had time. Like when we got together, everything included the kids. Number one, because we were the only ones there. We didn't really have a lot of people initially that were in the city who would watch a baby for us. So what we did with us and the kids day, and then even when Dallas came. So I think one of the best things I enjoy about us now is that every night by 7:00, we're sitting somewhere to watch our show, have my cocktails, and do whatever. The other thing is being intentional about making sure that we're going somewhere to do something, like we'll go out to lunch or to breakfast or whatever. We don't go very long before we do that. Some type of date. And everybody talks about this stuff, but it's not just going. It's the conversation we have. I think, like when we sit and watch TV shows, trust me, what irks me is this man will pause in the middle of a show. Hold on, pause right here. What do you think? I'm like, I don't want to think about whatever is not in the script. Let's just watch this, okay? It's so hard watching shows with him. But the quality of the conversation truly has, I think it has helped us to grow up and grow together. Because there are a lot of things that I just didn't, and as a young person, you don't think to ask people all of these deep questions to understand who they are. And some of it is, I wasn't even fully developed to be able to answer some of the questions that we talk about now. But I think the biggest thing for me is to, outside of us being parents, outside of us being people who are working and coming home when you're tired, outside of us being partners, and so you have the sexual connection that you have here and there. It was like actually talking and hanging out. Like he was with his friends. I was with whoever I picked up at the time. My friends at the time, whatever the case may be. But we were friends with our friends. I think that was the thing is, a lot of people, when you think about your marriage, you think about it like a pie chart and you say this percentage is this. I remember we used to try to figure that out. How much of the percentage is, this or that or the other. The constant effort to maintain a best friendship with your partner, you get lost in everything else sometimes. And that's not something that you really think about. But now I feel like that's all we ever do. So To me, that's what helped us to mature and grow. And we weren't there. We weren't there then.
Well, I mean, we weren't there then because I was the blockade for sure. Because there's no way that you were going to become my best friend.
No. Ain't that crazy? But it's what he used to say too.
I said that because I didn't think that was possible.
Yeah.
Yeah, I didn't even, so the idea of working on it, I didn't even believe people when somebody said I married my best friend.
Yeah, I know. Well, the thing is if I was just looking at my parents' marriage, I would be able to say the same thing. But when my mom married my stepdad, like they used to hang out all the time, giggle all the time. Like I saw it. But I think that I saw it because it was their second time around for both of them. And that's what they wanted was a friend. They got married at 42 and 47. So they were around where we are now. So understanding that, I think it gave me the picture of what it was supposed to look like. I just didn't know how to make it work at 20 something.
Yeah.
Especially with, General John over here blocking everything off and making sure. But it's okay. I think that us not having that when we were younger, it allowed me to have something different with our kids. Like I anticipate that if we were closer, we'd still be close with our kids. But there were so many things that all of the things I would do were focused on them. So it was like, we're going to the park, we're going to this museum, we're going to do this. All of my time was filled up with them doing things. So I know that they got a lot of interaction when they were younger, and that makes me happy. Looking at them now, and when they talk about things, not everything, they don't remember everything, but some things they do, and I'm glad that I had that opportunity. The way I was when I first met John, I was like nose wide open. And if he would have been as into me as I was into him, like I wouldn't have been able to be like, I don't even know what it would have been like. I don't even know if I would have known how to balance, because my mom, like when we were growing up, my mom did stuff with us, but a lot of the time we were out with our friends and playing outside. Maybe the kids would have been more independent. They would have been able to play more with other people and not being so engaged with me though.
I don't think so. I think if I was into you like you were into me, we would have been in tuned into parenting. Like you would have showed me that part. And the reason why I say that, because the way that I'm into you now, like I still think about parenting. I don't see you giving that part up then.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So to me, like I think I would have just got on board.
I guess in my head, I'm thinking if there was a part where, outside of when we did spend time together, not to say we didn't spend time together, and not to say that I didn't feel loved. I'm just saying I was a little over the edge when it came to him in the earlier part of our relationship. Any friend would tell you, like, Kanika. But I don't know how well I would have balanced my attention. That's what I mean. But the kids, yeah, it was always just me and my little homies. And depending on the different life, I used to work nights at some point. He had a cigar bar. Ships passing in the night a lot of the time. So, but in that time, I think you and I would have been, it wouldn't have felt like ships passing in the night if we had done the work prior to our life flipping upside down.
Well, I don't know. I don't know how we could have done the work because, yeah, I just felt like, honestly, when we were passing ships, my head, that's what marriage is about.
Wow.
I was like, the kids are safe. They're going to school. They're healthy. They got a nice place. We come together when we come together. We eat dinner when we can or whatnot at that time. But I thought that's what marriage was about. I didn't know, like, it didn't have to look like that.
I think one of the things that come across in all of this is, do you and your partner have the same vision for what makes sense for what marriage looks like and what parenting looks like? because we did not. I had a whole different idea of what it was supposed to look like. And when he's saying, you know, I felt like that was what it was supposed to look like, I knew that there was a hole. I was just filling it with other stuff. But I didn't know that when I met John, I didn't know in our conversations, I didn't know that we didn't see marriage and co-parenting the same way.
You know, I was just thinking like the co-parenting part, like you did way more parenting than I did. And I feel like I did way more than my father. And I'm like, if I would have known, I would have done it. I really thought I was doing 50% out here. Like
You did. I know you did.
like it wasn't like I was arguing. You were arguing like, John, you are not doing 50%. It was
Right.
like, I'm like, whatever you say I need to do, I'm gonna do. Like,
Well, he was doing more than my dad. So to me, he was like still.
well, I would. So in my head, I was doing way more than my father. So I'm like, how can you complain?
So and when you think about it, it's like, okay, so if our fathers were giving us a peanut butter and jelly sandwich and was like, this is dinner, and then we give our kids peanut butter and jelly sandwiches with chips, we'd be like, hey, the ones that
Get chips. I couldn't even get chips. And guess what? I had 2 butts. I didn't have the good bread on the inside.
Hey, look at how great our kids are.
And the jelly came from like a fast food restaurant. We had a whole bunch of them in the drawer.
Now you got Smuckers. So it's different. Yeah. So then but you know, I think a lot of people think of parenting that way. They're like, this is far more than what I had. This is what I wish I would have had. But you know what? When you have peanut butter and jelly, and then you see somebody else who get peanut butter and jelly and they get the little Hostess cupcake, you be like, I'm gonna make sure my kids get a Hostess cupcake. But there's so much more that it could be. But when you feel like you've gone above and beyond what you've had, now this is the stuff that I wish I had. You didn't even know to dream bigger. You didn't even know it could be more.
No, I did. It was more than what I had.
Yeah,
but I didn't know it could be like, so just listening to you, like I think about the stuff that I got and I look at the kids and I'm like, some of the stuff I don't want them to have. Like, I'm like, it's not good for you. You know what I'm saying? Like, I don't want them to learn bad habits and then take it into their adulthood and like, they got them from us, you know? So when think about, I just give you an example. My father used to go to the Rainbow Bread Company. He used to get the snacks. We used to have a bunch of snacks. And then got to the point where he said that, I know why we did it, but he was almost, he had to teach us because we would eat all the snacks in a day. After that happened, he was like, had to distribute snacks throughout the day. Like whenever time for snacks, like you eat it, no, you're not getting anything for another 3 days because that doesn't make any sense. But now our kids, they have access to whatever snacks they want as much as they want. And the idea that they have that could be, I just hope that, I guess our teaching practices does not allow them to become, where that becomes a huge problem for them.
Yeah, but they're not Debbie cakes or anything like that. But you're right.
I mean, snacks are snacks.
They are. But I mean, it'd be like granola bars and cereal bars and stuff. Fruit in the fridge.
Look, check this out. Okay.
I know, I'm trying to make it better. But, you know, I agree. I understand that. And that's the other thing is like stuff that I grew up with. I want my kids to be able to have it with no problem. But John wants to regulate those things for reasons based on his childhood. And so us coming together, we really, really were also fighting against all of those, not necessarily fighting, but trying to find the balance between those two because our upbringing was so different. And so he'll be like, they don't need to do all that. I'll be like, why? I had it. They should be able to have it too.
I guess
then
my stance is thinking about kids who probably had it, that I call them spoiled.
Yeah.
And spoiled kids take advantage of things. And that's the last thing I want to, like, and I know they don't act spoiled or whatnot, but I don't want them to get to that point where there's an expectation, like, I know we can do this. Like, who the heck are you?
Yeah.
And that's what I'm saying. I don't want them to become brats or entitled in a way where they go out in public. Man, it was like,
right.
You know, like I don't want nobody looking at them like that. So it's like I want them to have the balance. Like, you know what? My parents, they did a lot for us. They gave us this life, and I'm grateful.
Right.
But I'm not gonna let it like make me a bad person or a person that nobody wants to be around. Cause those kids, you know what those kids look like. They feel like they don't have to do anything. It's anyway. Well, I do though.
I understand.
No doubt.
But bringing it back to your original question, you asked me, I'm gonna ask you, what do you think?
No, I think I wouldn't have even come up with it. The best friend part. Like,
But for you, it might not have been that. What do you think it was?
no, we didn't grow in it at all until the last 5 years, until I tried to be your friend. That's what I'm saying. If I would have thought that the goal was to become her best friend, I don't know if I would have got married, because I don't even know if that was in my DNA at the time. And looking back, if that's not your intent, if they're not already your best friend and it's not your intent, that marriage is probably not going to work. Because you're a different person if they can't be your best friend. It's like you're stopping something that's supposed to happen naturally, but it can't happen because you won't even stop you at the finish line. You're like, I ain't going over there. And to me, in the last 5 years, I've tried to become your friend. And I think that's the reason why I ask you so many questions, because at some point, I should cover enough where you're not bothered by anything that I say. And if it's anything that I feel like you're uncomfortable with, I should be able to know how to talk to you about it without you feeling like if a stranger in the street mentions something, you don't go off. But if I can make you go, I know you better than a stranger. So I should use the information that I have to make sure that you don't ever have to feel like that with me. So I couldn't get to this point without trying to become your best friend, though. So I believe that the most important part about relationship growth is that you have to try to become the best friend. Because if you do that, you're looking past just coexisting. You have to be intentional. Like when you building a best friend as a child, you're going over their house. You know what I'm saying? Like y'all are hanging out. It's like intentional. It's not like we accidentally hanging out. So with you and I, like you said, we don't get dressed up to go out. We just go get a drink and some guacamole and some chips, and it's probably, you know what I'm saying? But I'm saying like that, and that's why I think most relationships fail, because I don't think they can get there. I don't hear a lot of people say, I married my best, like not guys saying that. I hear more so women. If I hear a guy say that, he came from a 2-parent household. No, I'm telling you, like 2-parent households, there's a struggle that you don't get. Like you don't have to protect your feelings like that when you get in a relationship. Like when you come from a broken household, you don't want to ever hurt. So when you come from you don't even know you can hurt yet. So the intentionality of building a relationship that is better than the one that whoever you consider your best friend, because you live with this person.
Yeah.
Like I'm supposed to know. Just imagine if this started 10 years ago, where we would be. Like it just keeps getting better. And if you want a successful relationship, they have to become your best friend at some point, because you don't want to hurt your best friend's feelings. And if you want to talk about something that's really hard to talk about, you talk to your best friend. And if they live with you and you going outside of their house to talk about something that's important, it's kind of like, that's just one thing. There's other things that's a problem if you can't give them that. So spending time talking, like I know like sometimes you hate when I push pause. And when I say pause, I'm talking about the remote control when she's watching something, because I feel like there's something, she's already seen these things 1,000 times anyway. So to me, it's an opportunity for me to like say, hey, what do you feel about this? Because it make me think something. Like,
How it's the first time I've seen it every time. Yeah.
But that's where I am. Like, I feel like trying to become the best friend with intentional effort that will show relationship growth.
One thing I'll say though is people building relationships now. If we were talking to younger people building relationships now, they have so much more access to information where I'm hoping they are entering into relationships a lot more mature and wide-eyed, open, eyes wide open than we were. Hold on.
Don't believe it.
Hold on. But what I'm saying to you is you have more information at your disposal.
You got to do it though. You got to
Yes. But
live for
it
it.
really is something in that. Like, there was attraction when we met. There was definitely chemistry. When we went out, we definitely had a good time together. So we had fun together. But you weren't the first person I would talk to when things were hard.
Well, I know.
And vice versa.
But I was cool with that.
Yeah. But I think that there's definitely space for your best friend that's not your partner. Because sometimes you got to say things that you can't say to them because you love them. And some things I have to work out some of the words I have to say sometimes, or else they can be like really, really
harsh,
uncaring. Like, if I said things the way they initially come out of my spirit, it would be as if John could disintegrate on that day and I'd be like, bet. And that's not how I feel. But immediately, if you make me upset, then I feel like I've seen it where it's like, I don't have to deal with this. Like, I very much so believe in being peaceful. And when we met, we both talked about how we do not like to fight. We don't like to argue. We ain't gonna be in a relationship arguing, da-da-da-da-da. What I didn't realize is that John does like to fight, but not like fight to hurt people. He likes the back and forth with people. And I don't want any of it. And so when it does get to the point where we are arguing, I have very, very little, like, it's almost like I push any compassion or caring back to the side, at least when I was younger. As I got older, it's like when things get to be too much and we're fighting, I'm always trying to slow down the train, like, so that we can think and it not get too big, because we can't go on and not talk about it. It has to be talked about. But does it have to be talked about at 100 miles an hour? No. And so those are the things that I learned being a young person and being in a relationship with you. I was so caught up in loving him. And, when he came in a room or somebody said his name and I'd smile, all of that stuff is what I thought was going to sustain you and I. And it didn't. In the end, that stuff, it doesn't fade away, but it goes in the background because there are so many things that kind of push their way to the front. And with my younger cousins, when they do talk about who they're interested in, I'm always telling them it has to be more than what you're talking about right now. It has to be more. And even in being friends, I thought John and I were friends. We weren't best friends, and that's really what I wanted. But I thought John and I were friends to the point where, like, if we went somewhere with other couples, we laughed, we had a great time. If we went somewhere together, we had a good time. But it was only in those little moments. And then we came home, and then it was like, you might leave to go do whatever with your friends, or we'll go to our own corners. Like,
that's what I said. That's what I thought marriage was.
But I did too. I thought it was enough. I wanted more, but I thought it was enough because I was like, we have a good time when we go out. Didn't go out very often after a while because life was lifing. And so then even that part of us being friends was kind of like, ugh. But I learned.
We went out a lot when we left.
Yeah. But a lot of the times when I talk about us in our young marriage, I'm talking about Atlanta because I was like 9 years. That was the first 9 years. And in my head, it just feels like we went into this and I was like, we can laugh together. We're attracted to each other. I know his quirks and I can get past them. He knows my quirks, and if he feels like it, no. But so we're good. It'd be great if we were best friends, but we're good. And so now I tell people, like, if all this stuff is stripped away and like if there's something going on with the sexual attraction, if you're having a hard time with money, if like when life really comes barreling down on you, is that somebody that you're like, your first instinct is to say, how do we do this? Or is your first instinct to start turning on each other and being mad and feeling like I could do bad all by myself? I used to hear that a lot with my friends. I could do bad all by myself. If your first idea is I could do bad by myself, there's a problem. If you're thinking we gonna have to figure out how to get out of this, I feel like if you're best friends, it's so much easier to do that because I stick really tight with my best friends, but people that I enjoyed hanging out with, they've kind of floated off in the wind. And I don't want that kind of friendship with my partner where you have the same level of enjoyability hanging out with me as I did with people that I just let go. I want you to be the best friend. Like my childhood best friend, we have been like thick speed since the 8th grade. And as much as we might float off and do our thing, we always come back. That is my person. And you should feel just that strongly about even more so about your partner, because there's so many other things that go on with that. But we used to have the friendship of somebody, like if it all came down to it, it'd be like, oh, well, it was fun hanging out with them, but things we just didn't start, and we just stopped hanging out. I don't want that with my person. So yeah, I tell my little younger cousins, it got to be more. You're gonna have to do better than that. It got to be more than that.
Well, it had to be more for you because I wasn't bringing anything. I'm sure whatever your cousins are dealing with, they were bringing more to be able to get closer. They approached it differently, probably. I mean, like when I look and talk to young people about any type of relationship, I have to see what they're seeing, how they grew up, because it's kind of hard to paint a picture that they don't even know is possible. Everybody wants more.
Yeah.
But it's definitely beneficial that your partner wants to deal with you, at least walk toward that.
Well, and even to say in the second act of our relationship, the Abu Dhabi years, toward the end, I just started leaning more towards friendships. Like I developed a very strong friendship, and we were hanging so much that John was like, hold on. I ain't feel like we talk anymore. Like there ain't even nothing between, like we're just doing whatever and there's nothing there. So even then you recognize it's a certain level of friendship that you was like, look, this is what I've grown accustomed to. It just wasn't as deep as now. But
oh yeah, it was nowhere near. But even where that made me consider like this isn't working. And you was just like, what are you, John? We talk every day.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of growth going on, but you know what? I think that was the breaking point from your end is she's not even my friend, and I know what it's like to like hang with her, and that's my person. And I think it got to the same point with me as well. So at different parts, I was like, if we ain't friends, then I can do this. Do it by myself. I know. So yeah, I not to beat the dead horse, but I definitely think that's something that was instrumental to this part, the third act.
For sure. How many acts we got?
Ain't no telling. Like, I don't know. Maybe the next act is once Dallas graduates.
Oh yeah. But
And then
no, maybe the next act is when Day graduates. And then
look, because Dallas is gonna be the only one in the house. Yeah, okay. So Act 4.
It's coming soon.
Yeah.
At least we know we do have each other.
Yeah. And the dog.
Oh yeah, them cool. Yeah. Anybody want to give a shout out before we get out of here?
No.
I want to give a shout out to my best friend. I love you. Y'all make today better than yesterday. Don't worry about anything you can't control. GATA. Get after that action, or that action will get after you. Be great on purpose.